we'll lead towards the vehicle initially, unless you want to be, sitting on the bench with your legs crossed, waiting with a pipe ready to go. What is up, everybody? I'm Josh Garcia. Welcome to the Revive Motoring YouTube channel, and today I'm at our friend Kyle DeMello's shop, SOMA Imports in Massachusetts, because he's got a bunch of imports, and in particular some R34s. With R34s becoming legal stateside, I know nearly nothing about them other than everybody wants the unicorn R34 GTR. But with that said, those aren't here yet. There are some other ones that are GTT, GTST, whatever they are. Coupes, four doors. I want to learn a little bit more, and Kyle's going to walk us around the couple that he has and hopefully teach me a thing or two. So, Kyle, what's up, buddy?
What's going on? Welcome to SOMA.
Thank you for having us here. Truly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So this is an R34 sedan.
Right. So this is a 1998 Skyline GTX T. So the T obviously stands for turbo. The names get a little confusing. They kind of change per generation. They go from on the R32s they go GTS T, or 33s would be like a GTS 25T. On the R34s, they're going to either be, for a turbo model, it's going to be a GTT or a GTXT.
So GTXT.
Correct.
XT.
So the T at the end would represent the turbo.
Okay, and X meaning four door?
So the X is, it's a very good observation. So the X is only available for the four doors.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can only get a GTX and a four door. So the GTX is a little bit higher trim. So the GT is the base trim.
Yep.
They had a couple different trims. They had GT, GTX, GTV, and then you could get a GTT. So all the GTTs are turbo. So the GTX has a little bit more comfort like amenities versus a GT.
Yeah.
Little nicer options. It's actually got more options than a GTT. A GTT would be more sports based.
Yeah, it's just kind of luxury,
right? And
creature comfort.
Exactly. This is more grand touring. Feature, amenities you get in there, which is kind of nice.
Is genuinely cool, because I always like that grand touring aspect of things.
Yeah.
Those creature comforts, and I never really looked at
I think it's like
R34.
The door cards, the tinted window, with a heads-up display. There's a couple of little nuances that just change it from a regular GTT.
Yep.
To make it not plasticky 90s Skyline.
Right,
so, which makes it a little more nicer place to be.
I imagine, did those come with a premium when they were actually for sale on the
exactly.
GTX?
So for four doors go, this is the top of the line four door that was offered.
Okay.
The GTX-T was the top of the line four door that was offered at the time for the GTX Turbo. Which is really cool. So we sought out and we were looking for a really early production number. So as you know, they were just legal this year. Finally, it's finally, so 1998 was just legal this year. So every month goes by, ticks by, it's a little exciting. We get closer to every next car that becomes legal.
So you were explaining that off camera a little bit. It's not by year.
Right.
It's by truly by
the registration
when it was manufactured.
Right. Yeah. So this is so they started production in May for the R34s, and this is a titled registered June car. So the June cars they had to be produced. So this is an early production number. It was actually, it might even be an early production number than the GTT, the white one, but it was registered in June. So the June. To have a June car on the title, the car had to be made, produced, brought to the dealership, transported there, sold, and then registered. And then once it's registered, then that for life will carry its basically its registration date, and that's what Japan uses for the titles and whatnot. So when they're making export titles. And
that's what the U.S. is looking at for
that's what the U.S. would use when we're bringing these cars in. So we have some cars in here that are actually like a 96 or whatnot, but they weren't titled till 97.
Yeah.
And so that would be technically a 97 vehicle stuff. So sometimes that happens. So yeah, this one we bought them both pretty super early in order to be kind of competitive. Like we normally do, we have the ability to store some vehicles in Japan, which saves a little bit, on both sides.
You can kind of try to, before that wave really starts to fly up, try to snag it.
Before it gets crazy, you can kind of get ahead of the curve, but obviously that involves putting up capital.
Right. Realistically, capital sitting there waiting.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Waiting to get exported. So we bought these both. We usually do for something like this, big dollar car, the sweet spot is kind of within 6 months. So when something is becoming legal, we usually, 6 months beforehand of time, we kind of do our research, what we're looking for, what the models do we want to bring in, what do we think our customers are going to want to, get into, and then we attack it. So we kind of just we scour the auctions daily, looking for, the best options. This is a grade 4 option that we got here today, and they're both actually grade 4s. So we purchased this one in January of 2023, so earlier this year, and then it didn't arrive because of its age. It didn't come in until June.
Yeah.
So
can you walk us through it a bit and just kind of let's talk some motor stuff and different things like that.
So a little bit different for the so it's got the RB25 DET, which we saw in the 33s. The 25s a little bit more stout than the RB20s, DETs, a little bit more power. I actually really like these engines, and this is the for the R34 was the Neo. So you got the RB25 DET Neo engines. So the Neo was like a little bit, I don't know, it's more. I think it was more like fuel efficiency, but I'm not a huge RB fan per se. I think they love to accentuate their personality when being driven. I think I think a lot of people can attest to that. They say, I think RBs are a little bit more, but I think these are the best. I think the Neos are my favorite driving wise. Just with a short time I've kind of had them. The RB25 Neos are definitely my favorite engine that these things come with. Very stout. They're rated at the 276. Sorry, it might even be 275 because I think they didn't have a compete clause for the GTR that was at 276. I think they rated
so they derated it.
They derated like 0.1.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. 275. This one's a very healthy, probably around 300 horse. It actually kind of surprised me today. We haven't really opened it up too much, so we haven't had much time with it. So really cool. So it's got this one's got the GTR front end on it, a little more aggressive than a traditional what a GTX front end would have, which I love. I think it's really aggressive. It's got its battle scars from coming off the boat, of course, which happens even when the coils are raised up all the way, like you see here.
I mean that I have to assume just because it's such tight quarters, realistically.
Right. And I'm not it's not really that shocking to see that stuff, especially with car especially storing cars like this. So depending what the customer is looking for too, we can store it in a certain way, but it really depends where we buy it, what auction house from. Japan has 240 auction houses throughout Japan. So you really kind of get the car delivered towards the closest main port.
I was going to say, right. You have to think logistically, regionally.
Right, exactly. And we get all our cars from southern Japan, usually Tokyo down. And so we have to find by the port, there's obviously lots, and we can store vehicles there. So this has kind of been just kind of chilling by the ports for 6 months. 5 months or so. And just waiting for waiting for the right time to get on a boat. So that's what a lot of people are worried about theft and stuff like that. So some of the high dollar items, we kind of take it out of the car and ship it ahead of time.
Do you have? Is there any? Or I might even know the answer to this, but I'm just kind of asking. There's no form of insurance when you pay for the car.
Only there is marine insurance, which we pay for.
If it's on the boat.
We add on every car.
Right.
But exactly, that's only...
But if it's sitting in a lot, not on the boat yet for let's call it 6 months, it just is, unfortunately, there's a risk associated with that.
Of course, yeah, that's definitely a risk. And we've encountered that last year for the first time. We had a 180 SX that we brought in, and it was, you know, it was running really good. When it was sold, brought it to the port, and then when he got off the port, it was running terribly. And it was just like, couldn't run at all, and it was kept on stalling out. It took us about 2 weeks to realize, okay, it seems like it has a bad math. So, and it was a CA car. So of course, like trying to source parts for a CA 18, so it's a really early 180 SX, it was kind of hard to find, not really common. Long story short, it ended up being someone stole the Apexi AFC out of it.
Yeah.
And that was just something they swiped at the port.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize until we saw the pigtail still hanging under it. And we had to go back in the old auction photos, and we're like, this thing had an Apexi AFC in it, and it's gone now.
Yeah.
So that basically acted like an open for a mass airflow.
Right.
And then the car would not run right.
It just controlled.
So
right.
we essentially just kind of took that pigtail out of the car, and then boom, started running perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things. It's like, and that was gone forever. And
right, and there's no,
and then trying to put in a claim for that, it's like, well, we don't know where we were stolen from. We don't know if it was stolen from the, you know, the docks.
I was gonna say, unfortunately,
right,
with as many of these things exchanging
right,
continents as they are, like,
yeah,
there could be people who are Americans, or
yeah,
you know, just there could be on the American side.
Right.
Who knows? There could be people there for other people on behalf of somebody here,
yeah,
just doing stupid shit.
Exactly. One thing I'm kind of glad that the GTRs, so going on to this about theft, so one thing I'm kind of glad about on the GTRs that they're actually delayed. So the GTRs, like Josh alluded earlier, they're 99. That's next year's stuff. So we got the we got the GTTs and the GTXs and the base models first this year. But one thing that the GTRs have is they have a heads-up display.
Yeah.
And some really expensive gauges.
In the center console?
In the center console, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Those prices now are like $5,000.
Yeah.
So like, and they come off really easily.
Yeah.
Like too easily, maybe probably shouldn't even be said how easily these things can come off. So, you know, those can be swiped at the port very easily.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
unfortunately, that's going to be one of those.
Going to be one of the worries of, you know, bringing GTRs in.
Yeah.
For next year is it's like, so hopefully people you know, seeing, so hopefully if I would be more worried if one of those coming right off the boat and it'd be one of the early ones, because people, you know, maybe might be more accustomed to seeing 34s maybe a year from now, and maybe that has died down a little bit.
Yeah.
And they might, you know, if they don't look closely enough, they might not realize it's a GTR.
It just kind of passes by in the wind.
Yeah, exactly. It might pass by more than, you know, that car, you know, having that option. So this is Bayside Blue, which many people would say is their favorite R34 color.
Besides Millennium Jade.
Millennium Jade is a really good color.
Like, I can't.
Right.
I finally seen one in person, like an R34 in that color.
Yeah.
And everything I dreamed of.
Yeah.
It came true.
Millennium Jade is a good color.
Yeah.
So this color, the Bayside Blue, was developed for the 34. Mr. GTR, this is his color. This is his baby. It actually wasn't originally called Bayside Blue, which is actually a cool, fun little fact. I really don't remember the name, but I think it was Nagone Blue or something like that. It was something, I think, based on the region of where it was or something like that. But yeah, so but we know it as Bayside Blue. And they changed it because of marketing reasons. They thought Bayside Blue was more marketable. But now on the 35, the Bayside Blue, same color palette, does carry the name that Mr. GTR wanted, which he was very, very proud of. But I love it. Bayside Blue is the first thing, you know, we just finished detailing it today, so this is the first time we're kind of seeing it pop through. And wow, it's really nice depth. So I fell in love with the 4-door. I think the 4 doors are way more practical, and especially having, you know, something cool like this, turbo, and this is a perfect little daily whatever, you know, do it all, and I love it. So little small differences here with the in the 4 doors is, you know, you get the different taillights and whatnot. Yeah, different taillights, different rear bumper. This obviously came with a nice little fat spoiler, which they love. It's so funny. I've said this many times. Their styling in Japan is like what we thought was cool in 2008. Yeah. Like, and we see that, and it's a lot of these cars are were kind of built period but a lot of them were later than you expect. Some stuff we already kind of moved on to, like maybe we're already going past the murdered out phase and maybe going to the dub phase a little bit. They were still doing like racy things, which is so funny. And
what I kind of keep thinking with that is that stuff was sold at Up Garage.
Right.
And like we think a lot of stuff is cool. HKS air filters, right? We think that stuff's cool. That was just off the shelf stuff.
Right.
So it was almost equivalent to them running to AutoZone, like we would.
It's like I could go to Pep Boys, I gotta get a filter.
And just grab a filter or a wing or white or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But it just happens to like it's just there.
Yeah.
We think it's cool because it's JDM, but it's kind of like in that same vein as that's AutoZone stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Luckily, it's got the owner definitely put a couple little touches with the carbon fiber around it, but it actually has a really cool sticker up here from Shaft Auto Service. So Shaft Auto Service is just a R34 shop in Japan, which is really, really cool. So I knew a little bit about them beforehand, and then when I looked at the auction photos, I mean, some of the auction photos are kind of terrible. So it wasn't until I got some high def photos of the vehicle once we won it, and I was like, oh, it is an auto shaft. It is a shaft a shaft car, which is so cool. They just do R34s. They don't do anything else. They're a premier sponsor for R34 Day in Japan. Which is really cool. So just seeing a shaft sticker on this car, and that's the only one that I had on there. It was really cool to see. Just because this guy definitely really cared about this one. The interior is still bone stock. There's not much to do here. I love the factory, the factory floor mats and whatnot. Typical Rizzo shift knob, which seems like everyone in Japan, they love those knobs. Yeah, it's exactly just like you're saying. It's because like the Pep Boys, like go down to Up Garage, grab a Rizzo, put it on there, and whatnot. They always have a double din too. Almost all these cars have a double din. Factory wheel is really nice. So a little different. So like I was saying, the GTX might go along with the other side. So the GTX have so the GTX have a little bit like have steering wheel controls and whatnot, which is really cool.
Right, just added luxury stuff again.
So we already kind of popped this for the ease video. So fiberglass hood, nice and and light. So
just to kind of obviously it's now. It's with the front end changes.
Right. So exactly, this has got the GTR kind of look on it. With it changes the bumper where it kind of pushes it out. It's more aggressive up front. So with that, actually, right, because with this, even the difference in the coupe over there, right,
the hood has I'll show it in some B-roll. The front of it, the face of it, just drops right down,
right,
and it's like an inch, almost like a 90. Then it hits the regular surface of the hood. It's a weird looking thing, but you can tell the difference between, like you said, that
and that's something that carries on even from the 32s that you would have to do per generation. Right. That you would see that and whatnot. So. It's funny when you kind of like sometimes you would easily, unless the average enthusiast might, if R32 goes by or GTR goes by quickly, they might not realize it might actually be it might actually not be a GTR. Right. It just has a GTR front bumper on it, but it's a kind of easy way to tell is by way the hood and whatnot if they've changed it out or especially the width of the fenders and whatnot.
There's been a couple times where I've seen a white one in Rhode Island.
You
can put that's not a GTR.
You could put a GTR in a bumper and a badge, and it would fool 80%. I say of people that because honestly, we haven't really seen that many.
Right. Yeah, we're not. And again, unless you're super into those in particular,
and you would realize that then when you see a GTR and realize how wide the natural bodywork really is. How it blends it in. It's really nice. Speaking of, so this is a non-GTR. They never made a 4-door. Well, that's actually a lie. I was going to say they never made a 4-door GTR, but they did. Right at the tail end of 33s, they made a super rare Autotech 4-door R33 GTR. I think there were only like 2 colors, like silver and white, maybe. Okay,
I wasn't sure. I know there was black version. Actually,
it might have been black.
I might be thinking.
It's very limited colors. Most of them I've seen are silver.
I might be thinking of Sylvia's though. I know there was some specific Sylvia's that.
So just for like the late, so early 90, mostly actually early 98s. So a lot of this, there's a little bit of overlap because they started production in the R34s in May. So a little bit of the late overlap, the R33 4-doors, the Autotex, they made a ton of 4-door GTRs, which is actually kind of cool. So I've been seeing them a lot at the auction now because Japan knows that the U.S. is one of the biggest markets.
Yeah,
so
if somebody wants to sell.
Exactly. So they're waiting for these cars to become legal because they don't know they'll get the top dollar at auction.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's dealing with the auction's kind of fun. We're a mass dealer here too, so we see some of those same kind of tricks and stuff that we kind of see that some dealers might pull over there.
Yeah.
We kind of see that them do the same things over there. But anyway, going back to the width. So this is wrapped in, we got work CRKs all the way around, 9.5-inch wheels, which is wild how it fits and kind of fits in there quite nicely for a non-GTR. I'm actually surprised they're 9.5s. I didn't think they would fit in there so nicely. The owner looks like he put color match the engine cover, which is so funny. So. Yeah, this is. So we just got this car in about a month ago, so it's still going to go into the body shop. Probably going to go into the body shop to fix a couple of things, bumper in the trunk, and probably going to address the typical strut tower things like you see here. So
yeah.
This one isn't.
Looks like it's got some surface
just
rust.
Just starting there, and it looks like someone the previous was trying to save it a little bit, maybe just by putting paint. Japanese are terrible. I'm sorry. Disclaimer. I don't want to hurt feelings, but the Japanese are absolutely terrible at bodywork. I don't know why, but maybe we just have a higher
quality.
Quality standard, but it seems things to be a bit rushed. Even cars that weren't technically built for. You might see a lot of cars that might be sold at auction.
Yep.
And then like 6 months later, I'll see that same VIN come through because I save basically all the VINs, I save like pictures by their VINs.
Anything you're interested in,
and it pops back up.
Yep.
And it's a different color. It got a kit on it, and like you can tell the paint just by looking kind of close. It's like this is like a really rushed.
Yeah.
Like get the cheapest body kit, throw it on there.
So do you find? You see it in one aspect, it doesn't sell.
Right.
They rush it through.
Yeah.
Let's change the color. Let's do a couple of things, and hopefully it sells that time. Get somebody to bite.
Yeah, and another way that they do that too is by changing regions. So they'll take a northern car, like a northern island Japan car, up in like Sapporo region, and it might not sell really well up there. Or maybe on the flip side, it might be a really nice car.
Yep.
But people are just naturally scared to bid on a car from Sapporo.
Yeah.
Because it's a rust belt.
It's just got that.
Yeah, they get more snow than we do over here in New England.
Yeah.
You might see that car transported way down to southern Japan, and it's got maybe a couple more things on it, or maybe just completely the same, and the car sells for like $3,000-$4,000 more, which is so funny.
Yeah.
I've seen that quite a bit many times. I've actually seen that many times.
I mean, I get it. They're.
It's a hustle.
They're exactly.
And it's it'd be the same as us taking our rusty pickup trucks up here at this auction. And instead of sending them over here, send them down to Florida because in Florida they're not looking for us.
Yeah.
And vice versa. People down in Florida saying, all right, let's take off the nice truck beds and trucks and send them up to New England.
Yeah.
And these things are going to fetch the money. So you kind of see the same kind of like tricks and whatnot, but. This thing is still need to be serviced, but it's such a driver. We were, do some preliminary checks, and then we were very impressed how it came off the boat. So this is technically a grade 4. We bought it as a grade 4. I was telling Josh a little off camera. I think it's a little inflated because it's a hotter vehicle. The coupe I would say is a real grade 4, collector quality, whatnot. But I would probably grade this right between a 3. I'd probably say a solid 3.5. Even 3.5 might be a little too strict. 3.5 has a little bit more scratches and stuff like that. It really only has a handful of spots where I would say needs addressing, but.
So in between a 3.5 and a 4.
I'd probably say about a 3.5 and a 4, which actually really doesn't exist. It actually exists in America. We actually have a very similar scale. In our auction, our auctions only go up to 5 as well, but we can do 3.5, 3.6, 3.7.
More incremental.
Yeah, it's more incremental, which is nice. But in Japan, it's just baseline. It's like mostly it's a 3.
Yeah. 2s
or R's are the kind of rusty, and then you have 3.5, couple of scratches, and it really goes by mileage and age as well. And it goes up to a 4 is what you would really see for a car that's 25 years old. A 4 is really all you're kind of getting that's going to be left. There is some 4.5s occasionally, but that is like super low mileage vehicles. You know, cars that we've had that maybe like 30,000 miles under, that you'll see a 4.5. It might even be under that because it has to fit within a certain requirement of mileage. So, and like once you get to the 5s, you're basically talking about newer cars.
Yeah.
The 5 in America is a brand new car. In Japan, they actually do go up to 6, I believe, which is a brand new car.
But obviously that's stuff that we wouldn't.
Right, that wouldn't be legal to import. So finding stuff that's 4 is pretty rare. So I think this is a little bit less than a 4, I would say, because of the it does have, it's not original because the GTR look and whatnot. So you know the hood's been painted, the fenders have been painted and whatnot. You know, it's put the wing on it and whatnot in the back. I would say it makes a little inflated, but still a really nice, clean example for what these things are. So
yeah.
So now we got the GTT coupe. So this is a beautiful car. I was really excited to bring this one in. I was really trying to give people here in New England the best example for a GTT. So what makes this one really special for me, this is a May production month. So going back to what we were talking about earlier with the blue GTX turbo, which is a June production date. This one is actually a May production date. So like we said, that the production started in May. So this car basically had to be produced, brought to the, transport to the dealership, to the dealership sold, then the owner would have to register it. So once it was registered, all in the month of May, then this car carries now a May registration, which makes it super important when trying to import one. So having one of the first legal GTTs, everyone's flocking over for the May cars. We can talk about like Sean at Top Rank, on the West Coast, like that's all these guys were looking at. These guys were buying probably, 20 like May early production cars, stuff like that.
Yep.
And that's kind of what they were looking for. So yeah, the early production is really kind of hard to find. And I was really in love with this car, especially being a grade 4. There's just not too many examples that are kind of left for us for the picking. So we found this one in January as well. Super excited. Really nice car. It's got a couple of cool exterior features that I really enjoy. It's got a couple of Nismo bits that's been tastefully done. It looks pretty OEM. This is definitely the OEM plus that like we would probably call here stateside. People think that this bumper is actually like aftermarket, which technically it is. But this bumper is actually a Nissan factory option. Well, it was called the Altia. So they also have Nismo bumpers, right? You could get Nismo bumpers, but you can also get the Altia. It's like Altima without the M. That's how I kind of think of like remembering it. So it's an Altia bumper, which is a little bit more rare. It's kind of harder to find, and it's kind of has a little bit more GTR appearance, but it doesn't have the nose, as you can see, that kind of sticks out with it as much, not as aggressive. But definitely gives a nice flair to a GTT, a little bit more road presence than a regular GT car going down the road, so you can kind of tell it's special. The wheels look really similar to a GTR, so these wheels are actually like very similar spec to what you would see on a GTR. So yeah, really overall a nice car. I love this thing, especially in white. White's one of those colors that just like,
Yeah.
if I can own every car, I'd own it in white. I'd be like Fish from Risky Devils. I just have everything in white, which is, I love that guy. So yeah, a couple of little Nissan Nismo bits. So the rest of the kit is actually Impul, IMPUL. It's an Impul kit, so it's Impul sides and rear bumper, which is kind of cool. It has a little bit of diffuser built in, which is it's kind of a really aggressive design. I think for back then, for 98, what they made these cars for, like, the kit probably came out in late 2000s or so. So I think it's pretty aggressive for what the time was. We kind of like that stuff like later on, like the diffusers. I think we kind of liked a little bit more later on. One thing about Japanese cars, or I should say the owners, they love gauges. Like, oh my gosh, there's so many gauges. Like imagine, remember the Subaru we brought in once? Well, with Hershey Subaru, it was like 40 gauges. It was like so. There was a gauge for every. I think there was a barometer gauge. Like there was a gauge for everything. There was, there was every type of gauge ever, which is a little corny, a little ricey. I think the Japanese, they love a little bit more. They like a little bit more of that flair, like that ricey flair. They're kind of still stuck in that era, which we kind of moved out of a little bit. It's very funny, but this one has a couple of gauges. What's nice, but this Blitz actually has you can convert it to miles per hour. So it's really nice driving down the road. You have a nice little
comes in handy
digital miles per hour, so you don't have to like think about math in kilometers. You're like, all right, I'm going 140 kilometers. It's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely speeding. So nice little tint here, but this car is super clean. This was a grade 4 car. We would consider this like a collectible grade with decently low miles. I believe the GTXT had 104, so not the lowest, so we were sitting at like 64,000 miles in that car. I think this one's slightly higher, I think about 70,000 US, but still really amazing shape. And there just really isn't much out there for availability for a grade 4 GTT coupe. So I was trying to bring in the best example to kind of show here in New England, especially being one of the first ones here in the stateside. So it was kind of important for us to kind of do that. I enjoyed bringing like one of the early possible cars for each generation, like one of the first GSX-90s, one of the first, if not the first, V12 Century, and a couple of cars like that. That it was really cool to have like really early ones, and we were storing these things for months. I think essentially we stored for like 16 months. So 6 months isn't that crazy, but I was really wanted the earliest production. May was the earliest one we could find, and the best shape we can find. So we definitely skipped a lot of vehicles, and we were kind of getting nervous, like, oh my gosh, what's going to be left to choose from? So we're like, do we shoot ourselves in the foot? Did we shoot ourselves? Like, are we too late? Did we miss the market already? There's a lot of that, checking daily in the auctions. But it was really nice to see this one pop up, and we're like, we have to have it. This is a great car, a great example to show before the GTRs come. So yeah, I think someone's going to absolutely love this for where the price point's going to be. So
what's your plan with this car in particular? You fixing a couple bits here and there, changing much, or just kind of really servicing it? And
I think we're probably going to respray the front bumper, probably fix this skirt right here, which took a little damage. This kind of things we didn't really see at auction height photos. It's kind of hidden to us, but for the most part, this car is a driver ready to go right now. So it's probably going to go into. We're still waiting. We're in that period right now. We're waiting for a mass title. We sell everything out of the door here with a mass title, service with mass title. So we're kind of still waiting for a mass title to arrive.
So it actually is going to say Nissan Skyline instead of a Nissan Maxima?
Right, exactly. Yeah. No. So everything we sell here, everything we have, we title everything to make it easier. For the customer, so they can it's like a regular car.
Actual transaction.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the same as a regular transaction we'd have at any other dealership because we are a dealership. Which is nice. So we're in that we're still waiting. Mass takes absolutely forever. So they're not too bad now. They say 3 to 5 weeks. It's been on the lower side. It's been about 3 to 4 weeks, I would say. We kind of expect waiting for a title. So in between then, if someone reaches out and say, "Hey, Kyle, man, I really like this car," everything's available. Before we get to that point, and we can hold that car until it gets sold. But if it doesn't sell until after that, we might keep it around, paint it, maybe do a couple of circuits of the shows if it's here for staggered and grid life and whatnot. That'd be awesome. We'd love to bring them out, have it, bring them out for that. So, we have quite a fleet of Nissans at the moment. So we just brought in the Stagea, we just brought in the S14. We brought in, we have the Primera here, which is going to be leaving soon. We got the 2 R34s. We have a little Nissan March coming in, which is super cool, which I actually haven't told anyone, so I guess that's a sneak preview. I'm super excited about this Nissan March. You won't even believe it. I guess I get more excited about these little quirky cars than I do about these things. So I'm just really excited to have finally R34s here. So, but it's like a bittersweet because now they're here. What are we waiting for next?
Right. What's the
So the production range was 98 to 2002 for the R34s. The GTRs extended if you had the Z-Tune, up to 04, 05. So they extended a little bit further, but like the meat and potatoes of the R34, the golden era, we're looking at 98 to 2002. So we're starting that right now, and we're all kind of hyped, but there's not much left at the end of the tunnel of the golden era, Nissans and the golden era JDM that we were all loving our posters, our poster cars. So it's going to be exciting to see what's going to transition next.
Yeah.
So we're kind of hitting the lower market as well, giving people some other options that maybe might have been overlooked while these cars kind of become unobtainium, because we'll see what the value is going to dictate next year with the GTRs. They could be it's definitely going to be maybe under 6 figures, but it's probably going to be right at that point. Right now for a gray market GTR, you're looking at about $1.25 as it is. A legal one would be a quarter mil, roughly about 200K or so. So these being legal now is going to drive the market naturally, I would say, down for a tiny bit, but then as the production number just got smaller and smaller as each generation went through from 32, 33, 34, as it was just a smaller pool to choose from, I think the numbers will just steadily go up. This isn't financial advice, but not financial advice, but what the history has taught us. Like I was telling Josh off camera, like how GTRs were once selling for 20K out the shop over here. They are going to be probably closer to 6 figures in that area, especially for an R34 example. Something that was grade 4 is something this clean for sure. So, but even so, grade 4 GTT is a great example, and it's definitely going to be collectible.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be collectible. Who would have thought that, 240s from mid 90s were going to be worth 25 grand?
Yeah, fetching what they fetch now.
No, 25 years later. I tell you what, Nissan didn't, that's for sure. I don't think they built them to last 25 years, but here we are now. So, no, this is the stuff that we grew up with Gran Turismo and loving these cars, and it's nice to see examples like this still existing in Japan. So, but we should take them for a ride.
We will take them for a ride. Where can everybody find you?
All right, so we're located here in Westport, Mass. So South Coast, Mass, but we're on Instagram at SOMA Imports. Find us on our website, somaimports.net. We're on Facebook, and you can always give us a call. So we're real people too. Just give us a call, and we can talk imports if you want to bring something in or something like that, or find some of these vehicles.